Co se stalo s WildRift e-sportem? Sledovali jste někdo WildRift e-sporty? Já jsem třeba moc ani nevěděl, že existují. Upřímně. Podle mě WildRift jako měli udělat už o 5 let dřív třeba. Když se daří WildRiftu, tak se bude dařit tady lolku, že jo? Takže jako já jim to přeju, ať se jim daří. Na druhou stranu přišli s tím pozdě, s tím WildRiftem, no.
With over 140
titulky
million monthly users and a massive competitive circuit, Riot Games' MOBA League of Legends is a titan in competitive gaming. From an augmented reality dragon flying through an arena, to collaborations with world-renowned musicians at World Championships, League of Legends is ubiquitous with what esports is today. So when Riot revealed that they were making a mobile version of their game, many thought it could be the next big thing. But after just 1 year, Riot pulled the plug on what is now considered the biggest flop in the company's history. Here's what happened to WildRift.
Tak si vlastně říkám, ty vole, že mobilní hry by ani neměly být e-sport, ne? Jako, proč si vole? Proč by měly být e-sport, kámo? Nevím.
Throughout the 2010s, Riot Games built a global empire with League of Legends. They were the most viewed game on Twitch, were hosting the largest esports events in the world, and, looking to capitalize, they made the decision to start branching out. During their 10th year anniversary stream, Riot Games announced plans to expand beyond League of Legends, hoping to break into fighting games, card games, first-person shooters, and mobile games. Enter WildRift, a handheld version of League of Legends, which was meant to appeal to a more casual audience. Their kits had less complex abilities, the objectives were simplified.
Zajímavě na WildRiftu je, že oni ho jakoby neudělali CTRL-C a CTRL-V na mobil z PC verze, ale oni ho celý museli dělat znova, prej. Celý úplně od píky prostě ho museli udělat celý znova. Se vším všude na mobily, že to nejde jakoby skopírovat nebo tak něco.
And the games lasted only 10 to 12 minutes, significantly less than the 30 to 40 minute average of a standard League of Legends game. In theory, making the game more accessible was a great way to reach a new player base, and general sentiment was that it could be a good way to introduce League of Legends to new people. So, when WildRift released on October 27th, 2020, hopes were very high. In terms of viewership, WildRift was an immediate success. Its cinematic trailer, You Got Me, amassed more than 71 million views on YouTube, and the WildRift Invitational at Twitch Rivals in 2020 had a peak viewership of 130,000, a number that stood head and shoulders above other mobile games at the time, like Call of Duty Mobile, Clash of Clans, and Vainglory. With such a wide casual fanbase, and Riot Games' experience running tournaments for a Tier 1 esport, it made sense for them to actively pursue an esports scene for WildRift. And after a decent initial showing at the Horizon Cup, 2022 was the year Riot Games intended to make WildRift esports a household name. Their plan? To produce one of the biggest mobile game esports events the world had ever seen. The WildRift Icons Global Championship comprised 8 different regional leagues, representing Japan, North America, China, South Korea, EMEA, Brazil, and Southeast Asia. Through qualifying events around the globe, 24 teams would be selected and travel to Singapore to compete at the Icons Global Championship. With a who's who of common...
Je zbytečný dělat takoby ještě WildRift e-sport, když to lolko je tak strašně podobný tomu WildRiftu, ale mít takoby 2 rozdílný e-sporty na v podstatě skoro stejnou hru, že jo. A ještě mobilní hry asi, říkám, no, nevím, že na mobilní hry by asi e-sport už být nemělo. To už je jakoby moc. Já ani nevím, jak dneska frčejí mobilní hry, no. Ale furt je to asi většina trhu, že jo, herního, ty mobilní hry, ne?
Commentators and analysts, and organizations like Sentinels, Nova Esports, FunPlus Phoenix, and Keyed Stars, the stage was set for a record-breaking event. And, in classic Riot Games fashion, they produced this trailer to get everyone hyped for it. To top it all off, the event had a prize pool of $2 million, ensuring that every team would be on their A game. So, the event kicked off on June 14th, 2022, and many expected the game to shatter viewership numbers, and it did, in the wrong direction. According to Yahoo News, the first day of the knockout stage only had around
10,000 diváků měl WildRift, vole, Championship. Okay.
10,000 viewers. Compare that to the League of Legends World Championship, or even your average streamer on a Tuesday evening.
So kurwa.
And the numbers are laughable. But that's not all. Esports Charts published an article highlighting the viewership for Icons and showed that the very first day of Icons saw peak viewership of 53.9 thousand viewers.
54,000 diváků. No jako, my si veme, že asi první šampionát v LoLku, jako v Season 1, asi měl takovýhle viewership, že? Ale stejně si myslím, že to nemá jako moc potenciál růst, no.
Before drop,
já jsem třeba ani nevěděl, že ten šampionát byl, no.
To 30.8 thousand by the end of the play-in stage. A drop of almost 30%. To put things into perspective, the Icons Global Championship never eclipsed the peak viewership of the Horizon Cup earlier in 2021, which was a significantly smaller tournament. The event went so poorly that afterwards, Riot Games pulled the plug on WildRift esports in Western regions and placed sole focus on China and Southeast Asia. According to a blog post, quote, "In 2023, we will centralize the operation and focus of WildRift esports in Asia, the biggest and most active mobile sports market in the world. The new WildRift League in Asia will be the first Riot cross-regional professional mobile esports league and will replace..."
V Ázii na mobilech hrajou, vole, daleko víc, no, ještě než tady. My to tady moc nefrčíme, ale tam jedou všichni na mobilech, no. Takže a je tam jakoby 90% trhu lolka, že jo? Tam jako je lolko je extrémně huge.
Placed the original WildRift esports in April of 2023. So, what went wrong? Western viewers might think, of course the tournament failed. No one watches mobile games. But in regions like Southeast Asia, that couldn't be farther from the truth. In 2022, there were two other games that WildRift was competing with. The first was Arena Valor. They hosted their 2022 International Championship, Legends, a tournament that also featured $2 million, and their average viewership was 200,000, more than 3 times WildRift's peak viewership. A big reason for this success was that the tournament was streamed on Facebook. According to Steam charts, half of the top 10 games on Facebook streaming are mobile games, and
na Facebooku tam někdo kouká na co?
4 of those games ranked in the top 5 most viewed games on the platform in 2022. Icons, for whatever reason, did not stream on Facebook, meaning they missed out on a huge viewership opportunity. But while Arena Valor was pulling 200,000 viewers for their largest event of the year, that was peanuts compared to another game in Asia, one that routinely pulled more than 2 million viewers for tournaments that weren't even their world championship, eclipsing that of even the League of Legends World Championships that year. The game? Mobile Legends Bang Bang. Essentially a League of Legends clone, MLBB had a 4-year head start on WildRift and quickly...
Oni lidi říkají, že prej to Mobile Legends je prej lepší než WildRift, no. Jako, i když je to jako v podstatě kopie, že jo, lolka, že to lidem prej hraje líp. Nevím proč, nevím jak, nehrál jsem ani jedno, ale...
established itself as the single most popular mobile game in the world. By the end
Slyšel jsem tenhle názor hodněkrát.
of 2020, Mobile Legends averaged a monthly player base of over 70 million users, with more than 10 million playing every single day. In addition, Mobile Legends used the time between 2016 and 2020 to develop a grassroots esports scene primarily in the Southeast Asia region. Unlike WildRift, who immediately created icons shortly after the game's release, Mobile Legends waited 3 years to invest into the M-Series, their official esports scene. Even without multi-million-dollar prize pools, the time spent developing a devout base of casual and competitive players was something WildRift could simply not compete with. As mobile MOBA expert, Xcoundrel explains, how do you convince a player that has spent 4 years of their life in a title like Mobile Legends to drop the game for another? The short answer is, you pretty much can't.
Oni si lidi prostě mysleli, že Mobile Legends je vyloženě jako lolko, že to je od Riotu Mobile Legends. Ten název je dost podobný, že jo? Taky tam máš slovo Legends. Ta hra byla fakt podobná, byly tam strašně podobné postavy, měli úplně stejný skilly, že jo? Oni je dokonce Riot za to soudil a dokonce to jakoby vyhrál a Mobile Legends jim zaplatil jako nějakou pokutu, nějakou menší, ale dál už se to neřešilo, no. Takže jako tím to jakoby skončilo, no. A Mobile Legends jedou dál, zaplatili pokutu, která je jako něco je to stálo, ale ne nějak moc. Mají tam monopol v tom, zatímco WildRift vole ryje hubou v hlíně.
This was a huge issue for WildRift. Even if it was a better product than Mobile Legends, and we're not saying it is, Riot also needed to convince Mobile Legends players who have invested 4 years playing, grinding, and spending money on skins to leave that all behind and try something else. Additionally, WildRift could not fully capture the League of Legends base, as many League players would rather stick to their PC counterpart due to the fact that it's a more fleshed out game.
Já se třeba WildRift nehrál ještě ani jednou.
Rift also struggled because mobile gaming isn't the global phenomenon we think it is, at least not in Western countries. While mobile gaming has been growing around the world, Southeast Asia has been the main contributor to its success. So while Riot was focused on a global release, the region that they should have invested the most in was Southeast Asia. The last major issue with WildRift was its preemptive focus on esports. Instead of spending time to cater towards the existing casual base, they looked to market WildRift as the premier esport of mobile gaming, essentially starting construction on a sports stadium in an empty city. Still, Riot Games went...
Já jsem slyšel, že prý Lee Sin nemusí ani skákat na Vardech, může jenom skočit do vzduchu Včkem. Že na nic se Včkne Lee Sinu ve WildRiftu.
all in with their plan to invest in esports and rushed their first year with icons, resulting in low viewership, thus resulting in it flopping outside of Asia. Without laying the groundwork to organically develop a player base, Riot set themselves up for failure from the start. In a blog post by
Jsou tam jako odlišnosti, no. Třeba tady ten Lee Sin spell, jak jsem říkal, to Lee Sin Včko a podobně, no.
Riot Games, the president of their esports division, John Needham, explained how they view the function of esports, saying, quote, Riot generally does not use esports as a way to acquire new game players. Esports aren't an effective way to do so because in order to really enjoy the competition, a viewer needs to have a foundational knowledge of the game. So, by this logic, if the game is struggling for relevancy in the West and facing stiff competition for user acquisition regions, it doesn't make sense to continue pumping money into something that only caters to a niche audience. So, where are we now? Despite dropping support for the Western esports scene in late 2022 and focusing on Southeast Asia and China in 2023, viewership for the game never really jumped up. Peak viewership for the game was just 17,000, which came during the 32nd Southeast Asian Games. In April 2024, Riot announced that they would be dropping official support for the APAC region because of this low viewership, leaving China as the last bastion for Riot-sanctioned tournament.
No v Číně, to prostě říkám, v Číně je 90% celého trhu LoLka a Riotu, jo. Tam to prostě žerou. Navíc to vlastní Tencent, jo, to LoLko a Riot. Takže tam to má největší smysl, no. Tady na to kašlem, že jo, na WildRift. Já to taky kašlu, jakože.
Still, that bastion is holding out. According to a report from Pocket Gamer, in July 2022, WildRift generated $500 million in global revenue, with 72.6% of that revenue coming from China. Suggesting that while the competitive scene isn't as big as games like MLBB, the casual scene is still incredibly active. So while WildRift may seem...
Jako esport ve WildRiftu asi nebude prostě schopný u nás jako existovat, si myslím, a asi by ani neměl. Ale jako samotná hra si myslím, že se to v pohodě asi uživí, ne? Samo. A by the way, to vypadá i líp než klasický LoLko, že? Na tom mobilu. Taky si říkám, že tam ty modely jsou hezčí, celý je to takový hezčí prostě než klasický LoLko, vole. A i ty animace těch skinů, že? Tam mají strašně dobrý. A i ty cinematiky, co dělají. Já třeba nehraju WildRift vůbec, nikdy jsem to ani zkusil, ale ty cinematiky všechny jsem jich viděl, jako ty loreový třeba hlavně. Ty jsou perfektní, no.
Dead, there is some hope for it to bounce back in the future. Maybe Riot won't invest in multi-million-dollar tournaments again, but if we've seen anything over the years, it's that players are more than willing to support the games they love. Shout out and thanks to Cloud.
Já myslím, že v Číně to pro ně má největší smysl asi a tady nechci na to vykašlou, no. Jakože není to potřeba, víš co, my jsme prostě už zvyklí na ty klasický LoLko, na ty naše Worlds v LoLku a nepotřebujeme ještě koukat na jiný LoLko asi, že jo. Třeba Any na PC vypadá jak na piku oproti mobilu. Jsou tam starý modely v té PC verzi prostě, no. Zatímco do toho WildRiftu to dělali nedávno jako by nový v podstatě, že jo. Nedávno, už to nějaký rok jako je venku, jo, ale jsou to jako modely, já nevím, z toho roku 2020 by to vydali, ne? Nebo nevím kdy. Tím, co v LoLku máš modely starý třeba 15 let tady. A Singed má, vole, model starý 15 let, víš co. A podobně. Je to jak to je, no. Co na to říct, bráško. Nevím, ale jako doufám, že to má dobrou budoucnost aspoň, nebo že se tomu bude dařit na mobilu. Čím více bude dařit WildRiftu, tím více bude dařit i normálnímu LoLku a to je samozřejmě dobře pro nás, hoši.